The Yuga cycle and Pralaya are fundamental concepts in Hinduism, one of the world's oldest religions. These ideas are deeply intertwined in Hindu cosmology and provide a framework for understanding the nature of time, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the eventual end and renewal of the universe. References to these ideas can be found in the Vedas, some of the earliest sacred texts of Hinduism. The conception of the Yuga cycle likely dates back to the 2nd millennium BC, reflecting the ancient Indian worldview that time is not linear, but instead consists of repeated eras of creation, preservation, and destruction. The Yuga cycle divides cosmic time into 4 distinct ages, which represent a gradual decline in moral and spiritual values. The first age, the Satya Yuga, is considered the golden age of virtue and harmony, where humanity exists in perfect balance with nature and the divine. Over time, however, virtue diminishes as humanity progresses through the Treta Yuga and Dvapara Yuga, each marked by increasing conflict and moral decay. The final age, Kali Yuga, is the present era, often described as an age of darkness and corruption where greed, materialism, and moral depravity dominates. This decline in righteousness sets the stage for the ultimate end of the cycle. Pralaya is the term used to describe the apocalypse that occurs at the end of the Yuga cycle, and it is not simply a moment of destruction, but a profound transformation, marking the end of one cosmic cycle and paving the way for the next. Hindu cosmology describes different types of pralaya, ranging from smaller, periodic endings to the great end, when the entire universe collapses and merges back into the ancient source, known as Brahman. When the apocalypse unfolds at the conclusion of Kali Yuga, the world is said to become engulfed by chaos and unrighteousness. As greed, violence, and ignorance reach their peak, natural disasters intensify, signaling the end of the age. During this time, the god Vishnu incarnates as Kalki, the 10th and final avatar, to restore cosmic balance. Riding a white horse and wielding a blazing sword, Kalki destroys the forces of evil and purges the world of its corruption. His arrival symbolizes the end of the Kali Yuga and prepares the cosmos for a new cycle of creation. Other than Kalki, there are other notable figures that come into play during this time. Brahma, the creator deity, oversees the cycles of creation and end, with his days and nights encompassing vast cosmic eras. Shiva, the destroyer, is also central to the concept of Pralaya, as his cosmic dance, the Tandava, symbolizes the destruction of the old order, making way for renewal. Together, these deities reflect the interconnected forces of creation, preservation, and destruction that govern the universe. The Yuga cycle and Pralaya reflect the Hindu belief in samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. They also highlight the importance of dharma, or righteousness, in maintaining cosmic balance. The narrative serves as both a cautionary tale about the consequences of moral decay and a source of hope, as it assures the faithful that the destruction of the world is not the end, but a necessary step to renewal. Frashoka Reddy is the Zoroastrian concept of the apocalypse and ultimate renewal of the world. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest religions, was founded by the prophet Zoroaster in ancient Persia, likely around the 2nd millennium BC. This religion is characterized by its dualistic worldview, which sees the cosmic struggle between good and evil. The idea of Frashoka Reddy reflects the eventual triumph of good over evil, culminating in the purification and perfection of the world. The term Frashoka Reddy means making wonderful or refreshment, and refers to the final renovation of the universe. It envisions a future in which the forces of good, led by Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity of wisdom and light, completely overcome the forces of evil, embodied by Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirits. This concept embodies both an end and a beginning, as it is the end of the current age of imperfection and the beginning of an eternal era of harmony and divine order. Zoroastrian texts, such as the Avesta and later Pahlavi writings, describe the events of Frashoka Reddy in vivid detail. The apocalypse unfolds as the cosmic struggle reaches its climax, and evil, which has infiltrated the material world since its creation, will be confronted and vanquished by the forces of good. This battle involves both divine beings and humanity, as humans are seen as active participants in the fight against Angra Mainyu through their choices and deeds. Ultimately, Angra Mainyu will be rendered powerless, and the universe will be purged of all evil and corruption. During this time, important figures known as Saoshyants appear, who are prophesied to lead humanity in the final stages of purification. The most important of these is the final Saoshyant, often identified as a messianic figure, born of the seed of Zoroaster, preserved in the waters of a sacred lake. The Saoshyant will bring about the resurrection of the dead, enabling all souls to participate in the final judgment, and in this judgment, the deeds of every individual will be weighed, and the righteous will be rewarded, while the wicked will undergo purification. The purification process is described as a trial by fire and molten metal, symbolizing the cleaning of both the physical and spiritual realms. This fiery ordeal will not harm the righteous, but will burn away the impurities of the wicked, allowing them to be reconciled with the divine order. Following this purification, the entire cosmos will be renewed, and death and decay will be eradicated, with humanity achieving immortality. The world will become a paradise, free of suffering, where all beings live in perfect harmony with Ahura Mazda's divine will. Zoroastrianism teaches that through good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, individuals contribute to the ultimate victory of good over evil. Despite acknowledging the pervasive presence of evil and suffering in the world, it asserts that these forces are temporary and ultimately powerless against the divine light of Ahura Mazda. This narrative provides hope and purpose, encouraging adherents to work towards the betterment of the world as part of a cosmic mission. In addition to this apocalypse's theological significance, for Shokurati has influenced other religious traditions. Elements of the Zoroastrian apocalypse, such as the final judgment, resurrection of the dead, and the ultimate triumph of good, are echoed in later religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. As a vision of the end of time, for Shokurati is both a culmination of Zoroastrian cosmology and a testament to the power of hope and renewal in human thoughts. The fifth sun apocalypse is a concept rooted in Aztec mythology, which forms part of the larger religious framework of the Aztec civilization. The Aztecs, who flourished in central Mexico from the 14th to the 16th century, believed in an understanding of time marked by successive creations and destructions of the world. Their cosmology, known as the Five Suns, described 5 distinct eras or suns, each representing a world created by the gods, only to be destroyed and replaced by the next. The fifth sun is viewed as the current era, and its eventual destruction is foretold in Aztec mythology. The Aztecs believed that the god played a central role in creating and maintaining the universe, and each sun, or world, was born through divine intervention, sustained by sacrifices, and ultimately ended in cataclysm. The fifth sun, like its predecessors, is destined to end, marking the culmination of the cosmic cycle. According to Aztec myth, the creation of the fifth sun was a collaborative effort by the gods at Teotihuacan, the sacred city considered the birthplace of the sun and moon. After the destruction of the fourth sun, the gods gathered to decide who would become the new sun. 2 gods, Texas-Tekel and Nanahuatzin, volunteered. Nanahuatzin, a humble and self-sacrificing deity, leaped into a fire and became the sun, while Texas-Tekel hesitated. The gods then sacrificed themselves to provide the energy needed to set the sun and the universe in motion. This act of self-sacrifice established the cosmic balance and reinforced the Aztec belief in the necessity of human and divine sacrifices to sustain the world. The Aztecs believed that the fifth sun, like the previous 4, would end in destruction. Each of the previous suns had been associated with a specific element and perished in a corresponding cataclysm. The first sun ended in jaguars, the second in wind, the third in fire, and the fourth in floods. The fifth sun is associated with the element of movement and is prophesied to end in a series of massive earthquakes. This belief imbued the Aztec worldview with a sense of urgency and a deep awareness of humanity's dependence on the gods to maintain cosmic order. The fifth sun apocalypse also carried a moral dimension, as the Aztecs viewed the continuation of the world as contingent on human effort and devotion. Ritual sacrifices, including human sacrifices, were a central part of Aztec religion and were believed to nourish the gods, particularly the sun god, ensuring the sun's journey across the sky and the stability of the cosmos. Without these offerings, the gods might grow weak, and the world would collapse prematurely. The fifth sun apocalypse encapsulates the Aztec view of an unstable universe, one that requires constant effort and sacrifice to sustain. This vision of time and the inevitable destruction of the current world were deeply ingrained in Aztec culture, influencing their rituals, architecture, and societal organization. Jewish eschatology, the study of the end of days and the ultimate destiny of the world, is a central aspect of Jewish theology. Rooted in the Hebrew Bible, Jewish eschatology thought spans thousands of years and has evolved in response to historical events and theological developments. The concept of an apocalyptic culmination can be traced back to the prophetic writings of the Bible, such as Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, which present visions of divine intervention in history, the triumph of righteousness, and the establishment of a perfected world. This apocalypse is said to envision a time of great disruption and transformation, often described as the Messianic Age. This period is preceded by a time of tribulation, sometimes referred to as the birth pangs of the Messiah. During this era, the world is expected to be filled with chaos, war, and moral decay, signaling the need for divine intervention. The arrival in the Messiah marks the turning point in this narrative, as the Messiah is envisioned as a divinely chosen leader, often portrayed as a descendant of King David, who will restore the Jewish people to their homeland, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, and establish a reign of justice and peace. The role of the Messiah is not merely political or military, but deeply spiritual. In many Jewish traditions, the Messiah's mission includes uniting humanity over the worship of one God and creating a world where the divine presence is fully revealed. This transformation leads to the fulfillment of prophetic visions of universal harmony, such as Isaiah's description of a time when nations will beat their swords into plowshares and learn war no more. The Messianic Age is characterized by an end to suffering, the eradication of evil, and the ultimate reconciliation of humanity with God. A significant feature of Jewish eschatology is the resurrection of the dead, which is anticipated to occur during the Messianic Age. The righteous are said to rise from their graves so they can be rewarded a life in the perfected world. This belief ensures that those who have suffered or acted virtuously in life are not forgotten in the divine plan. The ultimate judgment, conducted by God, will determine the fate of all souls, separating the righteous from the wicked. The culmination of Jewish eschatology is the Olam Haba, or the world to come, a state of eternal harmony and divine presence. While interpretations vary, some traditions view this as a spiritual reality beyond time and space, while others see it as a transformed physical world. The relationship between the Messianic age and the world to come has been a topic of debate among Jewish thinkers, but both are united in the vision of a redeemed existence where the divine plan reaches its fulfillment. Jewish eschatology has inspired generations of Jewish thought and practice, offering hope and resilience in the face of historical suffering. It emphasizes the importance of ethical living, social justice, and the active pursuit of repairing the world as humanity's role in preparing for the Messianic age. While the details of the apocalypse remain a mystery, the message of this apocalypse is one of hope, redemption, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. The Book of Revelation, also known as the Apocalypse of John, is a central text in Christian eschatology that describes the end of the world and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. It is the final book of the New Testament and is traditionally attributed to John of Patmos, who is believed to have written it during the late 1st century, likely under the oppressive reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian. Revelation reflects the early Christian community's struggles with persecution and offers a vision of divine justice and hope for believers. The apocalyptic narrative of Revelation is rooted in Jewish apocalyptic literature, drawing heavily on imagery and themes from the Hebrew Bible, particularly the books of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah. It introduces vivid and often cryptic visions of cosmic conflict, divine judgment, and the establishment of a new heaven and a new earth. The book opens with John's vision of Christ, who reveals messages for 7 churches in Asia Minor, urging them to remain faithful despite trials and tribulations. From there, the narrative unfolds in a series of escalating judgments and events that culminate in the final defeat of evil and the restoration of divine order. An important element to Revelation is the breaking of 7 seals, each unleashing a new calamity upon the earth. These include conquest, war, famine, and death, symbolized by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The breaking of the 7th seal introduces 7 trumpets, each bringing in further disasters, such as plagues, earthquakes, and cosmic disturbances. These judgments serve as warnings and demonstrate God's sovereignty over creation, while emphasizing the need for repentance and faith. A critical turning point in Revelation is the emergence of 2 great adversaries, the beast and the false prophet. The beast, often associated with oppressive political powers, and the false prophet, representing deceptive religious authority, unite to lead humanity astray and oppose God's will. They are empowered by the dragon, identified as Satan, who wages war against the faithful. Despite their apparent dominance, their reign is temporary and their ultimate defeat is assured. Other key figures include the Lamb, a symbol of Christ, who is depicted as both a sacrificial victim and a triumphant king. The Lamb leads the forces of good against the forces of evil, embodying the hope of redemption and the promise of victory for the righteous. Another significant figure is the woman clothed with the sun, who represents the faithful community, and her child, a messianic figure who will rule the nations. The climax of Revelation is the final battle between good and evil, known as Armageddon, and in this conflict, Christ, as a divine warrior, defeats the beast, the false prophet, and their followers. Satan is bound for 1,000 years, during which Christ reigns with the saints, in a period of peace often referred to as the millennium. After this time, Satan is briefly released, but is ultimately defeated and cast into the lake of fire, symbolizing eternal punishment. The conclusion of Revelation ends with the Last Judgment, where all humanity is resurrected and judged according to their deeds. The righteous are granted eternal life in the presence of God, while the wicked face eternal separation. The book ends with a vision of a new heaven and a new earth, where God resides with humanity in a restored creation. The New Jerusalem, a radiant city descending from heaven, symbolizes this perfect union of God and his people, where there is no more suffering, death, or sin. Qiyamah, often referred to as the Day of Judgment or the Day of Resurrection, is the Islamic concept of the apocalypse and the final reckoning of all souls. Rooted in the teachings of Islam, Qiyamah is central to Muslim eschatology, and it is extensively detailed in the Quran. This idea of a cataclysmic end and divine judgment is believed to have been revealed to Muhammad in the 7th century, forming an essential part of Islamic theology that emphasizes accountability, justice, and the eternal consequences of human actions. The Quran describes Qiyamah as an inevitable and transformative event, marking the end of the world and the beginning of a new divine order. It is a day of unparalleled significance, brought in by sins and cosmic disturbances that will disrupt the natural order. These signs are divided into minor and major categories, with the minor ones unfolding over time as moral and spiritual decay increases among humanity. The major signs signal the imminence of Qiyamah and include extraordinary events, such as the rise of the Antichrist figure, known as Dajjal, the return of Jesus, and the emergence of a savior figure, known as Imam Mahdi, who will restore justice and lead the faithful against the forces of evil. The arrival of Dajjal is described as a critical moment, as he is a deceiver who will spread corruption and mislead many through his claims of divinity, and his rise symbolizes the ultimate test of faith for humanity. However, his reign will be temporary, as Jesus will descend from heaven to confront and defeat him. The return of Jesus serves as a moment of divine intervention, reaffirming God's sovereignty and bringing hope to the righteous. Imam Mahdi is a messianic leader believed to be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, and Mahdi's role is to unite the Muslim community, establish justice, and prepare the world for the final judgment. Together, Mahdi and Jesus will confront the forces of evil, culminating in the ultimate victory of good over evil. This period will also see the emergence of other major signs, such as the sun rising from the west, a vast smoke surrounding the earth, and the release of Gog and Magog, destructive forces that will unleash chaos. As the world reaches its final stages, the angel Israfil will blow the trumpet, signaling the end of all life. This event marks the end of the physical universe, with the earth and heavens transformed into something entirely new. Following this destruction, Israfil will blow the trumpet again, initiating the resurrection of all souls. Humanity will rise from their graves and stand before God for the ultimate judgment. The Quran describes the moment as a day of unparalleled fear and awe, where every individual will be held accountable for their deeds. The judgment process involves the weighing of deeds on a divine scale, and those whose good deeds outweigh their bad will be granted entry into paradise, a place of eternal bliss. Those who are found wanting will be brought to hell, a realm of suffering and separation from God. The criteria for judgment emphasizes the core Islamic values of faith, righteousness, and adherence to God's commandments. Qiyamah reflects the Islamic worldview of life as a test and emphasizes the temporary nature of worldly existence. It serves as a reminder of God's ultimate justice and the importance of living a life aligned with divine principles. The concept also highlights the interconnectedness of all creation, as Qiyamah is not just an end, but also a beginning, a renewal of existence under the eternal rule of God.